All right, so let's jump into it today. We're going to be looking at the recent presidential election.
Yeah.
Specifically, some of the reactions to Kamala Harris having to certify her own defeat to Donald Trump.
Oh, wow.
We've got a whole bunch of Reddit comments here
Okay.
that are in response to a Daily Beast article about the whole thing, and people are really fired up about this one.
It's understandable, though, right? This wasn't just any election.
Yeah.
It felt like so much was at stake for everybody. And to see Harris, she ran against Trump, and then to have to officially declare him the winner, I mean, it really struck a nerve with people.
It did. Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, for sure.
Yeah.
So just to recap for anybody who needs it, Harris is the VP.
Right.
She had this constitutional duty to certify the election results.
Right.
The Daily Beast article talked about this sacred obligation she talked about.
Yes.
You know, ensuring a peaceful transfer of power, even though she lost to Trump.
That's really where these Reddit comments get so interesting. You see this real struggle for people between what's considered the right thing to do, according to like tradition and procedure, and the feeling that those norms might not be enough to protect democracy, you know, given the current political climate.
Yeah, there's this whole debate about the high road that plays out in the comments.
Oh, yeah.
Some people praise Harris for upholding the democratic process even in defeat. They say that, you know, sticking to those principles is more important than ever.
Yeah.
When we're facing what some see as like a rising tide of authoritarianism.
Right.
There are comments in here that say things like, when they go low, we go high, which is something we've all heard.
Sure.
But then you have this other side of the argument, which is basically saying playing by the rules is pointless if the other side is just going to weaponize those rules to dismantle democracy.
Yeah.
There are some pretty stark comments in here.
Oh, I bet.
Like, there is no high road when the other side is burning down the house. So you can really get a sense of the urgency and frustration that some people feel.
For sure.
So, okay, beyond the philosophical debate about the high road, you also see a lot of discussion about specific actions, or in some cases, inaction.
I was going to say.
The 14th Amendment gets brought up a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And for those who don't remember their constitutional law, this amendment bars anyone who has engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding federal office.
Okay.
So a lot of these commenters are saying that Harris should have invoked the 14th Amendment.
I see.
And just stopped Trump right there.
Interesting.
They argue that she had a moral, if not a legal, duty to do that.
But of course, it's not that simple, is it?
No, it's not.
The question of whether the 14th Amendment even applies here and who even has the authority to invoke it is...
It's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's a whole other can of worms.
It is.
And there are plenty of comments arguing that invoking the 14th Amendment would have been a massive overreach of Harris's authority as VP. Some even say that it could have set a dangerous precedent for the future.
Right.
You know, opening the door for political maneuvering based on these flimsy interpretations of the Constitution.
Yeah, so we have this whole spectrum of opinions about what Harris should have done.
Right.
But there's also a lot of discussion about the Democratic Party in general.
Oh, yeah. This is where the blame game really starts.
It does.
You see so much anger at the Democratic leadership.
Yeah.
People are accusing them of being weak, ineffective, or just plain clueless in the face of the whole Trump phenomenon.
There are comments calling out specific Democratic leaders.
Yep.
While others are more about the party's overall strategy or lack thereof.
Right.
And some are even questioning the whole two-party system.
Interesting.
Like, it's just not equipped to handle what's happening right now.
Yeah.
You can really feel the disillusionment in some of these comments.
Yeah, it really reminds you that this isn't just about one election or one politician.
Right.
This is about much deeper concerns, about the state of American democracy, and if the existing systems can handle the challenges that we're facing.
And that leads perfectly into another theme that comes up a lot in these comments.
Okay.
The role of the voters themselves.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about the politicians.
Right.
It's about the people who vote for them or don't vote at all.
This is where the conversation starts to get really insightful. You see people trying to figure out the influence of misinformation, the lack of critical thinking skills, and the consequences of apathy and just not caring.
There are some really thought-provoking comments about the need for better education.
Yeah.
Stronger media literacy, and a more engaged population in general.
One commenter made this analogy that really stuck with me.
Okay.
They compared Democrats to Charlie Brown, constantly trying to kick the football while Lucy representing the GOP pulls it away at the last second.
Oh, wow.
It's a funny image, but it highlights this sense that Democrats are playing by a different set of rules, and maybe those rules aren't working anymore.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah.
But beyond the humor, it brings up a serious question.
Yeah.
If the traditional norms and approaches aren't working, what does work?
Right.
What strategies do we need to protect democracy in this, new and more volatile political landscape?
Well, that's a question that we're going to keep thinking about as we dig deeper into these Reddit comments. There's a lot more to unpack here, and some of it gets pretty emotional.
Yeah, it feels like we're really moving from like the head to the heart here a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because beyond just the strategic and political analysis, you can just feel the raw emotion in a lot of these comments.
Oh, for sure. This whole situation has just triggered this wave of like grief and disillusionment. We're talking about a really divided country where a lot of people feel like democracy is crumbling around them.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to be emotional.
And it's beyond just being upset about the election results.
Right.
You see comments that express this deep sense of betrayal.
Yeah.
Like the institutions that they thought they could rely on have totally let them down. And there's this anger directed at the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like they didn't do enough to stop this.
We see comments like, the Democrats are cowards, or they just handed the country over to a fascist.
Wow.
It's not just disappointment,
Right.
It's fear. It's this feeling that their whole way of life is under attack.
Yeah.
And that fear shows itself in a lot of different ways.
Like how so?
Well, some people are saying that Democrats need to be way more aggressive.
Okay.
That they need to stop playing by the old rules and just fight fire with fire.
Like saying that they should be playing dirty too.
Right, basically, yeah.
Wow.
It's a real desperate times call for desperate measures kind of thing.
But then you have this whole other group of people who are just exhausted by the constant fighting, who just want things to go back to civility and like reasoned debate.
It's kind of sad when you think about it.
It is. It's like this longing for a more dignified political landscape that just doesn't seem possible anymore.
Yeah.
It's this real tension, wanting to hold on to those ideals, but also feeling like the other side isn't even playing the same game.
Right.
But even beyond the anger and the calls to action, there's this undercurrent of sadness in a lot of these comments.
Like they're mourning something.
Exactly, yeah. Like they're mourning the loss of unity, the fracturing of American society. There's this hopelessness about bridging the divide.
Oh, wow.
One commenter said, America is a nation of failed institutions and a population that recognizes it as such.
That's a pretty stark statement.
It is, but it reflects how disillusioned people are.
So where do we go from here then?
Yeah.
What can we even do when faced with this level of division and despair? I mean, these Reddit comments don't give us any easy answers.
Right.
But they do give us a sense of the soul searching that's happening. People are trying to process what happened to understand it all.
It's like everyone's trying to figure out where they fit in all of this.
Yeah.
It's not just political. It's cultural and societal.
It really is.
Like a crisis of trust, of shared values, of faith in the future.
And yet, in the middle of all that, you see these little flickers of hope. People talking about how we need to be more engaged as citizens, about renewing our commitment to democratic principles.
Not just from politicians, but from everyday people.
Exactly.
One commenter said, democracy is not a spectator sport.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it reminds us that we all have a role to play in this.
We do.
So as we move into the last part of our deep dive, I think it's important to remember that.
Okay.
Because beyond the emotional responses, there are actually some good ideas in here about how to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how even with all this emotion, people are still trying to think strategically about what's next.
It is. It's like this need to figure out what to do now. Okay, this happened, so what now?
Right.
And a lot of people focus on the Democratic Party needing to change.
Okay.
Like to evolve, to really meet this moment.
One thing that comes up a lot is the media.
Yeah.
How do you even reach voters when information spreads online so fast?
It's true, and that includes misinformation.
Exactly.
There's definitely a feeling that the old ways don't work anymore. Traditional media just doesn't have the same power.
Right, especially with younger people.
Exactly, and a lot of commenters are saying that Democrats need to get better at using social media.
Yeah, like using those platforms to actually reach people.
Yeah, and it's not just about fighting fake news.
Right.
It's about having a message that really connects with people.
Yeah, one that speaks to their lives, their hopes and fears.
Exactly, and a lot of the discussion is about Democrats needing to be more populist.
Okay.
An approach that speaks to people's economic worries and cultural anxiety.
The things that help Trump.
Right, and offering solutions to problems.
Not just talking about ideas.
Exactly.
But it goes beyond just messaging, too, right?
It does.
There are a lot of comments about the need for better organizing.
Yeah.
Building a stronger movement.
At the grassroots level.
Yeah, to get people to vote and fight voter suppression.
And that brings us back to this idea of civic engagement. It's not enough to just complain online.
Right, you have to actually do something.
Exactly. Get involved in your community and make your voice heard.
One comment said, democracy is like a garden. If you don't tend to, it will wither and die.
That's a good one.
It really shows how we need to constantly take care of democracy.
And that's a good point to end on. I think this deep dive into Reddit has been a whirlwind.
It has.
Emotions, arguments, and ideas.
For sure.
We've seen it all: despair, anger, hope, and even some strategic thinking about the future.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even when things are tough,
right,
people are still looking for answers.
Yeah.
Trying to make things better.
They are. And while there are no easy answers,
right,
there's something powerful about people working together.
Yeah, trying to figure things out.
Exactly. So we'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If the old ways of doing politics aren't working anymore, what else can we do? What can each of us do to build a better democracy?
Right. One that works for everybody.
It's a tough question, but it's one worth asking.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.